Muffin here. Subscriber request for the least and most played tanks. Now I'm going to be doing this from tiers 1 through 10, and honestly, some of this did catch me by surprise on some of them not so much, but let me know what your guys' thoughts are. But this is completely going off of BlitzStarsData.com and ranking from each tier, the one that has the most played or the most battles to the least. And so diving right into tier 1, the most played out of tier 1 is the Panzer II. Good tank. I haven't played tier 1 in a long time, but it was actually kind of the main star, the starting tank that I used for the World of Tanks Blitz movies series, if you haven't seen that yet. And the least played from tier 1 is the T-26. So don't have a lot to say on these ones, once again, because I haven't played them in a long time, but those are the most and the least from tier 1. Going into tier 2, the most played is the T7 combat car, collector tank. Believe it was a giveaway a while back. Haven't played with that thing in a long time either. But that's the most played. And the least played, which I think I had ranked it in a previous video as one of the slowest tanks in the game of its tier, was the D1. That was the least played tank from tier 2. Going into tier 3, the most played tank was the Kenny Otsu, which is funny because this is a tank that hasn't been sold in a long time and isn't coming out ever again. Wargaming has already said that. So there's still a decent amount of players that have that tank still that are playing it quite a bit. So that's the most played at tier 3. The least is the Valentine AT, British tank destroyer. Used to be in the tech tree, now a collectible. But now that is the least played of tier 3. Going into tier 4, the most played, and this was actually given away in the battle pass, but it's the Durchbreckenwagen 2, or the DW2 heavy tank, is the most played. Honestly, not a bad tank. I like it. But the least played, honestly, no surprise here from tier 4, is the Samoa SAU 40. Honestly, not my favorite tank. Pretty bad in my opinion, but that's the least played. No surprise there. Going into tier 5, the most played tank is the VK 16.02 Leopard, which doesn't surprise me. At tier 5, you do see this tank, I believe, almost in every battle. And it is honestly like quite a good tank. It did rank to have the one of the worst penetrations, and actually the worst penetration of its tier, but honestly still not a bad tank. And then the least played of tier 5 is the STRV M42, which I guess if I think about it, I don't play tier 5 a lot, but I do sometimes, and maybe I don't see that tank a whole lot. Going into tier 6, this one didn't surprise me in terms of the most, but the most played at tier 6 is the KV2, the KV2 monster. Just a beast, super derpy. And then the least played, this is a collector tank. It did come out, not too long ago, but it's the P4306 Anniversario. That's the least played at tier 6. Going into tier 7, the most played, didn't surprise me here either, was the SU-152. Honestly, a lot of fun, super derpy. And the least played actually caught me by surprise a little bit, because I actually think this is a great tank. As a matter of fact, even more so on the OP side of things, but it's the Chi 2 SPG. Yeah, that one ranked as the least played. So that one kind of surprised me. Now, tier 8, the most played, actually tied between two tanks. And I guess in a way I can almost see this as the case, but kind of surprised me as well. But it's the IS-6 and the IS-6 Fearless. These two tanks had the same exact amount of highest battles from Blitz stars. So that was actually quite interesting. The least played, according to Blitz stars, was the FE301, a newer tank, newer tech line in the game still, so I can maybe see why that one's not played with as much. Maybe still some people working their way up light. Honestly, I think that line is a great line, very capable tanks, but light tanks can be a little bit on the difficult end to play. Going into tier 9, the most played tank, didn't surprise me here, was the Waffenträger. I once again, I think in just about every single game, it's almost guaranteed to see one of these tanks while playing tier 9. And then the least played, kind of going into the same reason as the FE301, was the Vickers Cruiser. Once again, still newer tech tree line people maybe not have it as much or grind it up to it. Light tanks can be a little more difficult, I think, for the average player. So maybe that's why. And then for the final one, for tier 10, the most played tank at this tier, didn't surprise me as much, even though it's been nerfed quite a bit. And it's still a lot of fun if you know how to use it, but it's the FE215B183, or the Death Star. Still the most played tank at tier 10. And the least played tank, which doesn't really surprise me because it just had come in crates. It's more of like obviously a tank you had to pay for to get, but it was the Super Conqueror. Honestly, from what I've heard about, it's a great tank, but yeah, once again, from the purchasing conditions, I can see why this one might be. I was thinking maybe also the VK90 would have been right there too, but it was the Super Conqueror was the one that ranked the least played at tier 10. So hopefully this was interesting. This is the Muffin here. Let me know your guys' thoughts in the comments below, and you guys stay cool and keep tanking.